Well, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are, whatever you're watching this. We're glad that you're here. My name is Marianne LaSalle, and this is Steve Baker. And this is the Baker Senior Show. Hi, Steve.
Hi. Good morning.
It is morning here, but you never know where they're watching this. You
Exactly.
know? Yeah, it could be in the middle of the night, if they're in California.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, so I want to introduce you to my good friend Steve Baker from Baker Seniors. I've known Steve for many, many years, and I can tell you from experience that when I reach the age for Medicare, he is on my speed dial because Steve really has a lot of experience in Medicare and the health insurance that you need as you reach an older age. And I must admit, I'm getting up there. But whether you're watching this and getting information for your parents or you're getting information for yourself, this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for you to ask questions and get to understand the Medicare insurance. So, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history and how you came about helping people with their Medicare?
Well, I've been in the insurance industry for a good many years, approaching 30 years going back. And I just happened upon, when I started getting older, I just happened upon Medicare and got interested in it and got involved with it. And so I kind of shoved off all my other insurance areas to the side and just focused on Medicare. And as it happened, I became 65 and got into Medicare, so I got to understand it that way. And I started using Medicare. And then my wife and I both have been hospitalized. My wife has had cancer. I've had cancer. We're both totally cured. I've had a quadruple bypass. So I've got a lot of experience using Medicare. And I've been doing it for a number of years. And of course, I've got hundreds of clients in my area as well as across the nation. So I'm quite familiar with Medicare. I know how it works. And so I'm here to just explain how it works to someone who hasn't been educated about it.
Even if you're educated, Steve, sometimes there's a lot of confusion if you need to change your Medicare or if you're helping someone else in your family.
Mm-hmm.
Because from what I've learned from you over the years, there's different types of Medicare and there's different reasons why you might want to choose something different.
Mm-hmm.
So I think even if you've been educated on your Medicare, that
Mm-hmm.
you might have questions about your neighbors or your grandmother or somebody that is going through it, getting ready to go into it. As we get closer to 65, we want to know what our choices are. How much is it going to cost us? All the different things that are involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question in the audience, and I don't know if you're ready to take questions yet, but you let me know when you are.
Go ahead.
All right, so the question is, how do I know how do I know how to explain Medicare to my parents?
Well, you you need to contact someone like me, to explain it, because it is involved, it's complicated, and it all depends on where they are and how they're situated financially in a way. But there are Medicare programs for almost everyone. So that's about all I can say. I can go ahead and explain the Medicare, and if the person would like to just stay tuned, they'll get the knowledge that they're requesting.
I think that's an interesting way to answer that question because they may tell them something that's not right.
Uh-huh. That's correct.
One of the
That is
things
good.
that I've heard from you is that it changes. So there were changes in 2020. And one of the reasons why I know that is because I went to you for help and advice for someone who needed to change their Medicare. Right midstream, they needed to change it because of their situation change.
Right.
And you had told me that, wow, there's a lot of changes in 2020. So let's go over it. So I'm interested to find out why they keep changing Medicare. Shouldn't it just be the same all along?
Well, let me go ahead and explain the basically the two types of Medicare. And one type doesn't change so much, but the other one does. So let me go ahead and tell you what the two types are.
Okay.
And maybe that'll clarify it a little bit. Medicare is broken down into two. One is what we call traditional Medicare. Traditional Medicare started back in 1965, way back there, and it has evolved over the years into what it is now. And some years after that, traditional Medicare, and we very encourage everyone, if they're going to be on traditional Medicare, they don't have to do it, but I highly recommend that they get a supplement to go along with that. On the other side of the ledger is something that's called the Medicare Advantage program, which is totally different and doesn't have anything to do with traditional Medicare and the supplement. The Advantage plans are out there. They're all across, and you hear about them on TV, particularly between October 15th and December 7th. It's just people are inundated with that. Almost totally it has to do with the Medicare Advantage plans. So those two types, you have to choose one or the other. You can't mix them in any way, shape, or form. So you can go this direction or you can go this direction, but you must choose one or the other. So you need someone who really knows what they're talking about, and there's plenty of opportunities for you to call someone on the TV, especially during that period of time I just mentioned. So you really do need professional guidance.
I don't think I really want to call some random number off the TV. I think I'd rather call you.
That's fine. I've been doing it a long time, so that's just fine. Within about 5 minutes, I can determine what area that they need to really go in as far as the Medicare, especially if someone is turning 65.
So we have a question in the audience. This comes from Lady Lou. Her question is, how soon before age 65 should we get started looking at our Medicare options? Good question, Lady Lou, because I'm 61 and I'm already starting to panic about it. So good question.
Right. Well, when someone's turning 65, you got basically 3 months prior. This is to get Medicare now. We're not talking about the supplements yet, but just to get on Medicare, you've got 3 months before you turn 65, the month you turn 65, and then you've got the month that you turn 65. For example, if it's in July, then you've got the month of July, and then you've got 3 months after you turn 65. So you've got those, it's basically turns out to be 7 months. Now, I don't encourage anyone to wait that long. As soon as 3 months before their 65th birthday. And for example, if someone's birthday is like July 20th, let's say, July 1st is the time their effective date for Medicare is July 1st. It's the first day of your birth month. If you happen to be born on the first day, for example, if your birthday is July 1st, then your effective date is June 1st, the previous month, just on that one day. But any other time, if it's the 15th or the 20th or the 28th or whatever day of yours, your effective date is July 1st. So
Okay.
that's
So
go
I
ahead.
think her question is really more about when should we call you? 6 months before, a year before, 2 years before? I mean, we need to start getting information about our Medicare options long before it's time, correct?
3 months. Yeah, the answer is 3 months before your birth date,
Okay.
but birth month. Three
Thank
months
you.
before.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Lady Lou, I hope that answered your question. I think it was a good one because, like I said, I'm 61 and I'm already starting to wonder when am I supposed to find out? Because if it
Right.
changes every year, like you said,
Uh-huh.
then what I learn now may not be even something I need to think about or worry about in 4 years when I'm ready.
Sure.
So three
Yeah.
months before I turn 65, I'm supposed to call you and you're going to help me calm down.
Exactly.
And here's your phone
Exactly.
number. I have it up on the screen. It's 832-754-3292.
Uh-huh.
So I want to take a pause here for just a minute and let people know where they can get this information. So if you love Facebook or you love YouTube, we can be seen live every week, every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock Central. But if you're like me and you listen to a lot of podcasts, you can also hear Mr. Baker talk about Medicare on your favorite podcast app. So that is on the Baker Seniors Show. So I just wanted to let people know that there's a lot of different ways to get information about Medicare. Even if you're a year out and you still want to ask some questions, I know that Steve would be happy to be able to talk to you about what it is you need to look forward to. Right, Steve?
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
All right. So what else can we tell everyone about starting to think about Medicare?
Well, let me explain the four parts of Medicare.
Okay.
Uh, Part A of Medicare has to do with the hospital. It pays for the hospital, pretty much the hospital only, room cost only. But there are some ancillary items that would be covered under Part A. Part A has been paid for someone turning 65 through the years. You've got to have 40 quarters in order to qualify for Part A. But the thing about it is that
What's the 40
if
quarters?
that's your Social Security involved. You're involved in Social Security for 40 quarters. In other words, you've had 10 years, and that equals 40 quarters. You've been paying into Social Security for 10 years through your life. So once you do that, almost everyone has done that. But there are a few who aren't, and there's some circumstances that can be taken care of there. But mostly, once you qualify for that, then you qualify for Part A. Part A, you've paid for through the years when you've been working out in the workforce, and when you get your paycheck, there's a little box that says Medicare. That pays for Part A through the years. So that that's pretty much by the time you reach 65, that's paid for. So,
Are we
so
talking about traditional Medicare?
yes.
Because you're talking about Part A and all this stuff. So I'm,
Mhm.
I'm getting confused now. Medicare supplements are different than
Yes,
Medicare
yes,
A.
yes. We're not talking about the supplements yet.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
just we're just talking about Medicare
Part
itself.
A, Part B, that's still part of the traditional Medicare.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. Part B of Medicare is everything else. That's doctor's visits. That's any kind of surgery that you might have. You go in, you're not hospitalized, in other words. Anything where you're not hospitalized, that's Part B. Now there's a premium for Part B. It's a Medicare premium that must be paid monthly. This year for 2020, it's 144.60. So once you sign up for Medicare, you can generally, if you're on Social Security, you can generally pay for that out of your Social Security check. So that's deducted out automatically. So a lot of times it appears that you're not paying for it, but you actually are. So that's once you sign up, you pay your 144.60. That's the premium for 2020. That changes every year, and by change it goes up. I've never seen it go down. So, but it doesn't go up dramatically. But over the years, there would be some increase in the monthly premium.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional Medicare doesn't cost anything, but if you add Part A,
no. Traditional Medicare, I've just said that traditional Medicare Part B, you pay a premium for that, but Part A, it's not that it doesn't cost anything. It's just that you paid for it through the years by participating in the Social Security system. Whether you're self-employed or whether you're employed by someone, you pay over the years. You pay into Medicare, and that is applied to your Part A. So by the time you reach 65, Part A is paid for.
I understand. Okay, so we have a couple more questions.
Okay.
Let's go with the current one here. We've got currently your monthly portion, if you choose Part B, is $144.60. However, by the time you reach Medicare, it could go up.
It goes up on an annual basis.
Okay, all right.
So we just had a rate increase.
And what was it before the rate increase? What?
It was like 138.
Okay.
This year, it's been a dramatic increase. So it usually doesn't go up that much. It usually goes up just a few dollars, $3 or $4 or $5.
Oh, does that have something to do with who's in charge of the system, or does that?
It has to do with the Medicare gods. I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well,
Go ahead. And generally, that's called means tested, and generally you don't have to worry about that being more unless your gross income is, you and your wife, is like $270,000 or more. Then that's more than 170. But for most of us, it's 144.60 for this year.
All right. Here's our next question.
Mm-hmm.
Comes with Lady Lewis. She's asking, if your spouse dies, can you get their Medicare? It's kind of like the Social Security question. If your spouse dies and their Social Security is higher than yours, then can you get your spouse's? So basically the same question.
Well, typically speaking, when you sign up for Medicare, if you're married, of course, you have a spouse, obviously, and your spouse has his or her Medicare, and you have your Medicare. So it's basically two separate programs totally. So if your husband, let's say he's 68 and you're 63 or whatever, you do not get his Medicare. You have to wait until you're 65 and apply for your own Medicare. So, but if a husband and wife let's say they reach 65 together in the same year, they're both the same age, different months perhaps, but same age, then she has her Medicare and he has his Medicare. So it's totally different. It's not like Social Security.
Okay. That was the question. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Great. All right, so let's go back to the Part A and B that you were talking about.
Uh-huh.
So I want to make sure that everybody's clear on what Part B is. What's that for? What am I paying $144.60 for?
Just say it's anything outside. It's Medicare benefits outside of the hospital room.
So what
So so
kind
so
of,
when,
give us an idea of what that might be.
okay, let's say you have all of a sudden a pain in your side, a real bad pain, and what you
You
can
mean
do,
like
like,
Steve Baker?
yeah, like like Steve Baker, like I did one time.
Like your wife is saying?
I went I went to the pharmacist and I said, "Mr. Pharmacist, what side is your appendix on?" And he says, "It's the right side." I said, "Oh, okay, that's what I need to know." I'm in trouble. So so if you're over 65 and you're on Medicare, then you go into the emergency room and whatever, that's paid for through Part B in the
Okay.
emergency room visits. Anything outside your hospital room, as I was just saying, generally speaking, it's Part B. Doctor's visits, regular checkups. Uh, if you go to an ophthalmologist for an eye exam, all of that stuff is
What
paid
about
for.
medication?
Medication that's another issue, and we may want to address that in just a second. But that medication has paid through Part Part D, excuse me, Part D.
Oh, okay. So
So,
we're still on B, which is
yeah, we're still on B,
all right, which
exactly.
is your doctor's visits, your emergency room,
Hmm.
your, anything that you might need when you have a pain in your side that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need help.
Or if pretty much you're knowledgeable about the flu systems, and you have a horrible cough, and I think I'm coming down with something. I better go to my doctor. So you use your Medicare card at that time. Anything you would go to the doctor for, or if you have to go on regular visits, follow up with any kind of ailment that you have, is you use your Part B for that.
Okay.
So just
Anything
a
else we
simple,
need to know about Part B?
pardon me?
Is there anything else we need to know about Part B?
Well, no, generally, that's the one that's most used
Okay,
because
I can
because
understand that. And
yeah.
is there, do you have to pay anything, or is there like a fee? I forget what they call it, but you have to pay like $5 or $10 to.
Well, we're still on traditional Medicare now, and by using Medicare, there's a Part B deductible uh,
Ah,
for the year. This year it's $198. So once you've paid $198, that is
how much is it?
$198.
$198. Okay. And that's
Once, yeah,
deductible
that's your deductible,
every
and it
year.
every year it starts about this time of year. It resets every year, and once you've met that, effectively you've got 100% coverage with a supplement. You've got to bring your supplement into that as well. So with your sub, you have a Part B premium, and then you have a deduct $8. That's a Medicare deductible. So now both of those will pay. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's Part B will pay up 80%. Then that means you've got a remaining 20%. So that means you really need to purchase a supplement of some sort in order to take care of the remainder. If you have a Medicare and a supplement, then you're effectively your overall deductible cost is $198. And so once you've met that, then you can use your Medicare with the supplements for any other situation that you might have. For example, if I go to my cardiologist and I do an annual exam, that's covered. Office visits. Now we're still talking about on the side of traditional Medicare with the supplement. We haven't gotten to the Advantage side yet.
I don't think we're going to have time to do the other ones today, but we will cover those as we go on. This is a weekly show, and we want to make sure that you get all your questions answered. So we're diving deep today into the traditional Medicare, but of course we want you to know that there are more options that you can look at. And one of the great things about Mr. Baker is he's going to ask you the questions that he needs to know to figure out the best options for you. You still have a choice, but he's definitely going to work with you and your family members to go over what it is he thinks would be the best for you. Now, I know, Steve, you have had in the past some circumstances where people didn't listen to you, or they came to you from another source. Say they signed up for Medicare with another provider and they steered them wrong, if you will, or they made the wrong choice and it really hurt them in the pocketbook. Can you tell us a story of something like that that happened in the past?
Well, I can tell you that I just give you one example of someone that I signed up a couple of years ago, and he was a heavy smoker, and he was in the open enrollment period, so I didn't have to ask health questions. We haven't gotten to open enrollment either, so but we'll talk about.
We have plenty.
But he signed up, and this is an extreme case, but it can happen. And so 5 days later, he went in and he had chest pains and so forth, and five days later, he was on the operating table, and he had been a heavy smoker all his life, and so his lungs weren't in really great shape. So they had to put him on a respirator after his surgery, and he was in the hospital for several weeks. And his hospital bill, I asked him one day, I said, "What's the latest on your hospital bill?" He said, "It's over $700,000. So, and I had signed him up about 2 weeks before that with his Medicare. He had his A and his B and his supplement. He was all lined up, and that's an extreme case, but it can happen. You could get in an automobile. Anything can happen. So it's really good when you're eligible to go ahead and get lined up with something that will work for you, depending on your finances and so forth. That is. And we'll get into the other side in subsequent visits.
Yes, and I want to thank you all for joining us, not just today, but as an ongoing show. We're going to be here every single week at 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning, Central Time. We want to bring you the information that's going to make your life much easier when it comes to deciding the Medicare choices for yourself as well as your family members. I know how important it is, and when you get confused, a lot of us just shut off and we don't do anything, and that's when you can really get into trouble. So as you can tell, Steve is an easygoing guy, except for his wife might not agree with that. I'll have to ask her that. But he's easy to talk to. I have the phone number right here. It's 832-754-3292 to ask your very specific questions personally, one-on-one. Steve will take your call anytime.
Yeah, by the way, we might mention that whatever part of the country you're in, I will accept your call. I can probably help you eventually in other states as well. So whatever your questions are, just give me a call, and there's no obligation. I'm just an information source for Medicare, and that's what I do. And that's what way I've built my business, is just helping people understand Medicare before they start getting involved.
Yes. And having peace of mind is the most important part when it comes to healthcare. It's just something that we have to talk about, whether it's uncomfortable or not. And Steve makes it so easy. All right, Steve, any last words for today? We will be back again next week. be sure and send your questions in. Steve, what do you have for us?
Well, if someone wants, there is a publication called Medicare and You. It's put out by the CMS, which is the controlling agency for Medicare and Medicaid. And this publication is called Medicare and You. If someone would like a copy, if they can just give me a call, I'll be glad to send it to them, and free of charge. And the government supplies those to people like me, and so I'll be glad to send it back out to you in case you haven't had a copy, or if you're a little ways away from turning 65.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. It's Medicare and You, and that is a publication put out by the United States Medicare gods, as you call them.
CMS.
And Steve will send you a copy free of charge. If you just give him a call and let him know that you'd like that, he will send it to you. Please give him a call at 832-754-3292. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week, Tuesday, 8 o'clock Central Time. Bye for now.
Bye.